on down. All right. For those who do not know, I am David Doig. I am the head coach. So this is mechanical design. By the way, folks, we are recording. Actually, apparently they wanted to put me on the big camera. That's what the little one's for. So real quickly, introductions. This is brought to you by Team 10523, the Dragons. That is our varsity team. So this is our 10th season. We were FTC state champions in 2018 and the New Mexico 2020 state champions, as well as Inspire in 2020 on the state level here in Arizona. We're from American Leadership Academy out in Queen Creek. Like I said, my name is David Doig, and I'm way cooler than Matt is. He thinks he's cool. So, first things first. Safety! I cannot stress this enough. Number one thing, tournament, your lab, whatever. Wear your safety glasses. We've got two big phrases in our lab. Eyeballs. Someone calls that out, means they are about to start using a power tool. Ears. I'm about to start using a loud power tool. Please protect your hearing. As someone who's a blacksmith of 14 years, I've lost a chunk of hearing, and I can't imagine how much worse it would be if I did not protect what I have. Please watch where your fingers are when using power tools. Please keep your pink bits and the red liquid inside. Secure all materials to tables. If you are drilling, if you are grinding, if you are sanding, secure your material. Don't be sitting there with a piece of polycarbon going, okay, I'm going to drill through a hole here. Come on in, guys. I know there's a number of seats. All right? Do not try to assemble stuff in the air. It's not a magical Rubik's Cube that just floats there. So we are talking mechanical design today. We're going to talk about the design process a bit, kit of parts versus custom, CAD software, SRA, and DEMA, and everything that goes in between. I am going to try to hurry. There's a lot of information here. I'm going to try to hurry through this as quickly as I can. This will be uploaded later if you want to download it and go through it more thoroughly, but some things I'm going to skip rather quickly, just so we can get through it quickly. That way we can get 2 questions for you guys. So real quickly, engineering, and therefore robotics, is iterative. All right? You start with your research, you start to design something, you prototype it, you test it, it fall down, go boom, and then you evaluate the fall down, go boom. You want to see what's going on. And I don't just mean iterative throughout your season. You try to improve the robot throughout the season. Try to improve things year after year after year. All right? So for instance, this is a 2019-2020 robot that we built. This was 22-23. These ones are actually not competition bots. We've recently built these guys. These are our prototyping test bots. Okay? So we've gone through a process to where we now actually have robots that are ready to go. We can test things out on these while the engineers are working on the real bot. Or better to say, the competition bot. So, if you are a newer team, there is always the kit of parts option. I have no problem with the kit of parts. There's multiple vendors, Tetrix, Actibotics, and GoBuilda, Rev Robotics, AndyMark, and Vex. GoBuilda bought Actibotics, so whatever parts are out there, when they're gone, they're gone. I didn't know about Studica until very, very recently, hence why they're not in here. I haven't looked at their stuff a lot. What little I've seen looks actually very interesting. I definitely want to learn more about it. We don't really use Tetrix anymore. Rev is who makes our control hubs, expansion hubs, and driver hubs, as well as a great arrangement of motors and all kinds of different parts. AndyMark's who makes our field. They also have motors and kit systems as well as lift systems. Vex, when it comes to our stuff, they do FRC. Their stuff is very robust. It is pricier, but you are definitely paying for that robustness for what is FTC, and I'll get into that a little later. And then custom is building with raw materials. So if you want to look at the vendors, I'm going to skip through this really quickly. So custom building. Let's jump straight to that. A lot of people want to talk about that, whether it's a little or a lot. Okay? It requires precise designs. I'll talk about CAD more later, but here's the important thing. CADing your robot, computer-aided design, is critical. You don't want to look at your build and go, yeah, that'll do. No, we're not doing grip it and rip it engineering here. All right? We want to build these things in a precise fashion. They like to run a lot better in a precise fashion. We've had problems where people didn't check their measurements in CAD even. We had that problem 2 years ago. JV thought, oh yeah, we can just butt the motor ends up against each other, not realizing by the way they were doing it, the robot all of a sudden was over 20 inches wide. Not legal. So we had to do a whole bunch of modification to get that to work. Custom requires a lot more labor, but it does teach the students of CAD. It teaches the importance of planning it out properly and teaches them a lot of higher levels of skills and engineering. We do a lot of custom work in our lab ourselves. We have a lot of tools. Like I said, we've been doing this. This is our 10th season, so we've slowly acquired the tools over the years. Don't think you need a full lab automatically out the gate. Our first year, we had a couple tables and we were using my own personal tools. We've slowly gotten stuff over the years to where we've got this full lab now. And it's really, really nice. It allows us to do a lot more things. So speaking of tools, basic stuff that's really, really handy. Drills, there's both the regular drill and the impact drill. We have a regular over there, Mr. Bishop can hold that one up. So that is a regular 18-volt Ryobi drill. If you are someone who's brand new starting out and you guys don't really have tools, if you're going to go the cordless route, and I do recommend cordless, it's wonderful these days, pick one system. I went with Ryobi because they are not the most expensive, but they are still very robust for what they can do. They hold up very well with us, and they have a huge array of stuff in their 18-volt system. I know Valley prefers Milwaukee. Milwaukee is a higher-end system. They do cost more, but they are absolutely fantastic. They are a high-quality tool. DeWalt, the only reason we do not have more DeWalt tools, money. They are expensive, but you really are paying for quite something when you're paying that price. The only DeWalt tool you have in the shop is Sonic's over there, right? It's this really handy little gyroscope screwdriver. It uses a 1/4-inch chuck. It knows which way you're turning. You don't have to tell it backwards or forwards. It just knows from the way you turn the tool and does that. And it's got enough torque that it'll drill through steel.
It's also got a light.
And it has a flashlight. That's handy. Drill bits. I can't recommend it enough. I know most people don't work with steel like we do. We do, our chassis are steel. Even with aluminum, get steel cutting drill bits and cutting tools. They will last longer, they will give you more precise, and it's worth the investment. One of our miter saws we have in our shop, we've had it since 2018. I purposely made sure we got a high-end Diablo, tungsten blade. It's still running today. These tools last if you spend the money. It's worth the investment. Allen wrenches, we use them all the time for everything, both metric and standard. Make sure you have both. We've got a big, T-bar handle set that's from Harbor Freight. That was like 12 bucks. Still working to this day. Sockets, make sure you also have a metric and standard. Measuring. Measure twice, cut once. Oh, right, they did take our tape measure. Coaches, keep track of those. They walk off with them all the time. Tape measures are important. Calipers. Calipers are doing very precise measurements in a small area. I cannot tell you how many times that has been ridiculously handy. I purposely have both digital ones as well as mechanical ones if the battery fails. On the digital ones, one of the nice things on the one we've got is it'll convert decimal into fractions. So, you can use that on your ruler with your inches.
Also inch to millimeter too.
Yeah, and it'll convert it to metric if you need to. Most CAD programs default to metric, so it'll happily convert for you. Tools that are really, really helpful, your belt sanders, your bench grinders, your angle grinders. Coaches, shop vacs are your friend. Not just for your build area, but for the field. I am still amazed on the things that students track into the field if you have a practice field. It gets gross. Shop vacs are your friend. Miter saws, drill presses, welding. We do a lot of welding. Like I said, I've got a background in blacksmithing. Also, our longest running sponsor is a blacksmith shop. And so we have, as of 2019, 2020, we have started to weld our chassis. So we actually have in-house welders to do that with. You can always make your own tools. We've done that as well, something that might work for just about anybody, whatever it feels like it fits for you. Yes, quickly.
Do you guys use your welding generators to like charge batteries or anything on the go?
So our welders are only welders. So the big suckers that are welders and generators, on the back of a truck where you're just pulling that ripcord. No, ours are plug-in-the-wall electric only. We do have flux core welding, gas MIG welding, and we've actually recently got an aluminum spool gun. So if we want to weld aluminum, we can do that too. And we.
So if you guys ever choose to use the aluminum parts.
Well, there is a lot of other aluminum things that are out there, and so we can still weld that too now. All right, 3D printers. There's lots of CNC tools out there. 3D printers are some of the most common and out there. And if you don't already have one, most people probably have access to one. These are FDM, fused deposit printers, and allow you to make things that you designed in CAD. They are wonderful. The more modern ones are doing even more than what they used to. The first one we got in December 2017, we still have it around, and it gives us more problems than prints. However, our top end one here, that is the Bamboo X1. Absolutely fantastic. It also has what's called an AMS system. It can hold 4 rolls of 4 different materials all at once. You load them up, and it will absolutely unload and load itself for you. There is also the P1S that can run with the AMS that Bamboo makes, and we have one of those as well if you can't afford it, because the Bamboo X1 with the AMS is about $1,600 bucks. It is pricier. It is worth it. I have seen printers that are significantly more expensive that do not have the functionality or the reliability of the X1. The big difference between the P1S and the X1 is its camera, AI, and LiDAR system. It's checking that bed, it's checking that print. Did it spaghettify on you? And it will stop itself. All right, did the first layer go really badly? It's gonna stop itself. All right, it does a lot of auto calibration, does a lot of really nice things. That being said, prints do fail. It happens, even with the best of printers. Any number of things can go wrong. I have seen it to where a print went bad halfway through because a monsoon came in and my humidity just jumped. All of a sudden, it looks like a wheel, looks like a wheel, looks like a wheel, and now it's all blobby and looks like it came out of my nightmares. All right? There we go. Bigger CNC tools, you have your routers, your lasers, and your plasmas. There are desktop-sized CNC routers, basically taking a block or a plate of whatever. Router drill bit goes in, it's controlled by the computer with 3 different axes, and cuts out whatever you want. This is more of a CNC mill as well. This is the Fox Alien series. We actually got one of these donated. They're actually rather nice, and you can upgrade them to some really heavy-duty routers, and it'll cut through aluminum and steel if you want it to. Laser cutters, they're great. I know some teams actually do have laser tables. They're good at cutting wood and polycarb. If you want it to cut metal, it's going to need a lot more horsepower, but it can't. They are out there. CNC plasma. So same concept of, backwards, forwards, left and right, up and down. But instead of a router bit or a laser, it's a jet of superheated plasma coming out. It does require an air compressor to be plugged into it as well, but it cuts out parts great. So over here we actually have a box of plasma cutted parts that the Dragons and their JV team, the Wyverns, are going to be using. So they CAD'd these files up, and they got plasma cutted yesterday. And basically they make it in CAD, they then generate that CAD file into a file that the system can use, gets uploaded, and then it just cuts it out of it. Now we do not have one of these. Like this guy is about $9 grand. However, our longest running sponsor has one, and that is his donation. The steel and what he cuts for us.
Sorry.
Everybody say hi to Matt.
Hi, Matt. Did you guys enjoy it here?
All right. One other place, and actually Matt is the one who introduced this to me, Send Cut Send. It is a CNC website. You upload your CAD file, and they will cut it out for you and ship it to you.
Metal, plastic.
Everything.
Everything. Wood, carbon fiber. They cut everything. And if you talk with them, they might sponsor you.
Did they cut grass?
What?
Did they cut grass?
That was,
They sponsor my team.
that was good. this year, that was for this robot 2223. We tried to do a turntable, and we wanted to have a custom sprocket mounting plate for all the tools. The first one we tried to plasma cut it because that is hot. The very thin tips of the sprockets burned off. Sen cut Sen, whether they did laser or router, I'm not really sure. I think it was laser. It came out absolutely precise and worked great. So, when you're starting to build custom, safety glasses, measure twice, cut once, account for the cutting tool. I can't tell you any time something's been off because this blade is a 1/16 of an inch, this one's a 32nd of an inch, this one's an 1/8 of an inch, whatever it happens to be, and it shifts the whole design by that much, or something's just short that much. Remember, it is okay to make mistakes. We're all here to learn. Find mentors. Coaches, find mentors too for yourself. Go to their shops. All right, if people arrange it, I happily have times if they want to look at what we do at our lab when it comes to metalworking, I'll happily talk to them. We've got plenty of build space for people that want to come over and do tutoring. We also have a full field for people to try out robots on. So quick pros and cons. With kit of parts, it's quick and easy to prototype. It's like a really fancy erector set. It bolts together. It's easy for new and inexperienced teams. There's lots of information of the different chassis and tools. It ends up being higher because it's commercial off the shelf, and there is some limitation to it. Custom, the pros, it allows for a cleaner look. These are all custom robots up here. Even over here, Valley's 2015 bot. This is Jack. This is the one that won the world championship for Cascade Effect. We love Jack. Jack is a custom bot. They generally cost less than a full kit of parts. Most of your kit of parts are $800 or more bucks. And that's not including the control system. On these guys, we're running somewhere, I think this guy's got about 500 in the motor drive. The wheels are about 250, and then the steel, we're not paying all that much for it. The wheels are expensive. If you were to add Mecanum wheels to that, it would, kit of parts would get a lot higher. They do take longer. They require more effort, but it does come out really nice. It is a lot harder and requires higher engineering. Our first couple of years were kit of parts. We slowly went away from it. Last year we tried to do a kit of parts, it was 2018, 2019, and that didn't work out well for us, and so we've been welding ever since, and it's been great. So a couple examples of kit of parts. 3595, that's Schrodinger's hat. They were an earlier team that was absolutely phenomenal. And then there's Jack. We love Jack. Valley's first second team they ever had, 8640. That was of the same year. And then other kit of part bots we've done as well. There's Kai over here. Like I said, 22, 23. And then different years that we've done as well. Speaking of CAD, as I've been referencing it, two main programs I recommend, either Fusion with Autodesk or SolidWorks. Nice thing with Fusion 360, if you've got an education email, you can get it for free. SolidWorks, there is a higher learning curve, but they have more bells and whistles than Fusion. Those are the two best ones I do recommend. This picture of Kai actually was generated by Blender. Blender for an engineering stuff is a lot harder to use. They mainly generated that because they wanted something pretty. Yes?
So, with Fusion 360 and SolidWorks, can you use these on non-Windows devices? Or is that Windows?
You can't use it on Linux. I don't know how friendly it is with a Mac device either.
I think,
SolidWorks doesn't work with Mac.
Fusion has Mac, but I don't know.
It looks.
how
I think I've tried out the Fusion 360 on Mac, but then I've never, I know what SolidWorks is, but I've never seen it on Mac.
The biggest difference to help run Fusion is a graphics card. I'm not going to lie. We built a computer that actually has a graphics card, and the speed is so much better. Rowan?
This thing runs it really well too.
So that's I'm trying to remember what generation Surface. I think it's that's a Windows Surface 5. That runs it decently. The main CAD computer we have, though, is running a 2060 graphics card, and it loads everything in record time. Yes?
So talking about Fusion 360 or SolidWorks, does it cost money to
So like I said, this one doesn't cost any money because you have an education email, because you are a student, yes? So if you can just register with that, it's free. Boom, done.
under the case that you do not, there is a personal use, which is free, but you are very limited to what you can do.
Esther?
Yeah, you can just use your personal email and then you just send a image of your transcript or your photo ID, and then it's just separate emails.
Regarding SolidWorks, I know sometimes they do for robotics send out keys to you, so you can also download that for free. I don't know if they've sent one out yet for this year.
You have an education version for $50.
They do, okay, so there's that for 50. Yep.
Have you used Onshape at all for MTC design? I know that's becoming more popular in the MRC world.
I've used it a little bit. I find it to be a little, it is easy, but I find it's missing bells and whistles. And if for an intro, it's not bad. But, so Rowan and Esther over there are two of my biggest people that do CAD, and we just run it with Fusion. It's one of those, if it ain't broke, don't fix it kind of things. It also comes down to personal, whatever you want. If you like SolidWorks better, fine. If you like Fusion better, fine. I don't know if anybody still uses PTC Creo from way, way, way back in the day. Yeah, that used to be a thing in FIRST, was PTC Creo had a CAD program that was meant for FIRST robotics. Long ago in a galaxy far, far away. So, all right. When it comes to designing your robot, you can design it smart as well as doing a smart design. Designing it smart means mechanically you can remove things easily or add things easily, and you have easy access. So these protobots have a feature that we started using more last year as well, that we kind of learned our lesson from this bot. So this plate, it is steel as well as this one. Whatever tools we want to use, the climbers, any kind of intake system, extake system, we can mount it and weld it to the plate. We can tech screw it in. But if we want to remove it, we need to fix something, but we still want to be able to drive the robot. Poof, 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 poof. I take out 4 tech screws, this top plate comes off. I can remove all my tooling, fix it over there. The drivetrain, I don't have to disassemble it whatsoever. Super helpful. Smart design, building with sensors in mind from the get-go. All right, so we're already trying to build in cameras into this. Okay, another smart design concept, if you've got the time and money, I grant you, is definitely a money and effort time thing. This is a 6-wheel drive and a Mecanum drive. These are not our competition bots. We decided a long time ago that we're either going to run a Mecanum drive or a 6-wheel drive. And I'll get to drivetrains here in just a little bit. So these are now test beds, because we're going to either get one or the other. And so now we can just test the program with it. All right, so DEMA. D-E-M-A. They each stand for something that's very important for robots. Anybody want to guess what the D stands for in DEMA?
Design.
Drive. Anybody want to guess what E stands for?
Electrics?
Electrical. Good man.
Yay!
Give me a gray wheel. Here's a stealth wheel. We're going to come back to those in a little bit. Anybody want to guess M?
Mechanical?
Manipulation. Oh, and I gave away A. Manipulation. Any? A?
Automation?
Automation, autonomous. Wheel. Catch. So drivetrain, it is the #1 part. If your robot doesn't drive, it's a pretty brick. All right? 4 main categories. You get your wheel drives, your tank drives, your Mecanum drives, and your Omni drives. So 4-wheel drive. 4 motors, 4 wheels. Now you can either do it with 4 stealth wheels like I just passed out to these gentlemen, or you can do a hybrid with 2 stealths and 2 Omnis. All right? Helps to do an easy push. They're direct drive. Any commercial off the shelf, that's what COTS stand for. You'll see it in the competition manual. You can normally do these as tank drive in your programming and your teleop. They're easy to program. The wheels can be hard to line up. and it requires harder movement. The Omnis allow for a little more fishtailing, so you can do a little bit more maneuvering with it. But you still have to turn into your drives, just like a car. Six-wheel drive. There's a few different ways to do it. Pros, any commercial off-the-shelf wheel is allowed. It is easy to push others. You have greater traction. They are also normally a tank-driven system, and they are much better maneuvering than the four-wheel. Reason being, here's your six-wheel drive. If it wants, I can just pivot on a dime. I do not have to turn into my turn. My X and Y is staying the same. I am pivoting. These things are highly maneuverable. Reason being is, your center wheel is dropped 1/8 of an inch. It has to balance on that middle wheel. And it makes life a whole lot easier. Now the old way to do it, which is what Jack was, you were using 10 gears. Like in the picture here, you'd have a motor in between each wheel. You'd have a 120 tooth up on the motor, and then an 80 tooth on the drivetrain, and it would turn these guys. And that was a lot of gears and a lot of money. The way to do it now, you can actually have both your motors go into your central axle for your central wheels, like this guy, through gears. So here's my central axle. And then on this side, I've got, in this case, belts, but you can also do chains from center to the front or center to the back on both sides. All right, this is using a belt and pulley system. We've been going more and more towards belts because when it comes to chain, I have yelled at chain and it yelled back no so many times.
Chain's so nice.
When it comes to belts, I found a fairly recent website company, Swift Robotics, SWYFT. They've got a great array of belts at a great price. I will say, however, these guys are not from Swift. These are 3D printed. We printed these on the bamboo out of TPU as a flexible filament. They were about 2 hours a belt. After about 8 hours, we had belts. We had to double check them for tightness. They do stretch more than the other ones. The other ones, because they are a nylon core, they will last a little longer. But if you're in a pinch, they work great, yes.
Something you might want to know is, personally, I have a saying, chain is pain, because it just first put together and then it falls apart.
Yeah, I like to avoid chain when possible. I really like a belt system. These guys, the belts on this Mecanum are from Swift. Vex and AndyMark also have belts as well. These are using Vex belts.
For the belts, if you're 3D printing them, you will have to design them because they don't usually make standard CAD files that I haven't been able to find any, so you'll have to design them, which might be a little bit of a learning curve, but there's like a lot of videos, and just find like belt tube and decide.
They're harder to line up, and thank you, Esther. Make sure you drop your center wheel 1/8 of an inch. All right, use belts or chains. Tank drive. We're all nerds. We love a good tank drive system. It is inviting. You get some serious traction on the foam pads. It is very hard to be pushed around, and they are easy to program. However, the sprockets, whether it's the idlers or the powered ones, they are hard to line up. Okay? The Tetrix treads slide off wood, paint, plastic, acrylic, and whatnot. They also tend to pop. GoBuilda has a system. It seems better, but it is more expensive. I haven't seen much reviews on that. There is also another system called Lynx Motion. They work great, but you're definitely paying for the product. Yes?
I know it's a little bit off topic, but how would you compare Rev Robotics systems to Vex?
Here's the deal with, I can actually do that with these two robots actually here. So the 6-wheel drive is running Rev motors, okay? And it's using their ultraplanetary system for gears. The Mecanum is still using the Rev motors. I do really like their Rev motor system, especially how it integrates with ours, but we're using the Vex Versa planetary gearbox. Here's your up and the down, because both these gearboxes are modular. You can change them to whatever ratio you want. The Versaplanetary, that gearbox right there is $90 a pop. The Ultraplanetary are a lot lower. And that's $90 without the motor. Okay? If you want to add a 90-degree gearbox to it to where the axle is 90 degrees from the motor, that's an additional $90 if I remember the price correctly. However, these are also meant for FRC. They are far more robust. The other thing is, if your motor does blow out, and that occasionally happens, you can undo the bolt and just remove the motor. You don't have to remove the gearbox, let alone the rest of your drivetrain. The Ultraplanetary, while it is cheaper, doesn't have that functionality. But the other nice thing is, as you can see, this is the same gear ratio. These are both 20 to 1s. The Ultraplanetary are taking up a lot less room. But in some extreme stress situations, we have blown out Ultraplanetary gearboxes, especially the output end. Did I answer your question? Okay. Moving on. Mecanum drive, as I was just showing off. Pros about it, you can move anywhere. In fact, if you wanted to, can you move this one, Mr. Bishop? It strafes. All right, it's really nice. Highly maneuverable, especially on a flat floor where you don't have to go over anything. All right, you can avoid your pushing matches and you can get some decent traction. However, they are expensive. So there is the 3-wheel version. We actually have this over here on Bahamut. 3-wheel from Rev, a 3-inch version from Rev, I believe, is $75, $80. That would be those guys. The blacks that Andy Mark put out recently, those run $170 for a 4-set. And you do have to buy them as a set. And then their older gray models, those are $230. They are not an expensive set. Those stealth wheels that just passed to you guys, those are $4 a pop.
Also, do we get to keep those?
Yes.
Oh, perfect.
All right. With the Mecanums, you can be easily pushed with one small caveat. It used to be, yeah, if you got Mecanums, you get in a pushing match, you're going to lose. The only time I've seen an exception to that rule is Bahamut. This was Skystone. There was a weight limit that year. 42 pounds. Bahamut weighs 40.5. Yes, he's running Mecanums. Someone tried to push us. It was adorable. He had so much mass that he just kept on trucking. They do require more extensive programming to get the strafing and the turning into it, and you do need to have one motor per wheel. OmniDrive, it's a pretty much similar system, but instead of having it at a 45-degree angle, the wheels are perpendicular to the wheel that they're spinning on. They are fairly easy to line up and easy movement. You can get them to crab, but it doesn't have as good a traction. It slides on wood, paint, plastic, acrylic, and does also require about the same amount of programming as Mecanums. 4-wheel drive and 6-wheel drive require less. Yes?
Have you had any luck using 3D printed Mecanum or Omni wheels?
I haven't really played with those, granted, because we're running steel. I'm not sure how much I trust them. However, speaking of 3D printing, on the 6-wheel drive over here, those are not commercial off-the-shelf wheels. So the wheel in here is 3D printed. The wedge top is from Andy Mark. It is one of their tread options. It is the only tread pattern that is legal in FTC.
Really? That's interesting.
The rule with FTC is if you make a wheel, you have to test it on the field. Now, we've tested these wheels for years. So already here in Arizona, they know our wedge top. The rule is if you make a custom wheel, you have to drive into the wall and keep driving. And if it doesn't damage the floor, you're fine. With the wedge top, you're good to go. Tons of grip, you're fine. Their other tread patterns, their green and their blue nitrile, they will tear up the pads, rip it to shreds. Okay? This stuff is fantastic, especially for driving over stuff. Back in Freight Frenzy, when they had the obstacle, we ran a 6-wheel drive with the wedge tops on all 6. Didn't even blink at it. It just Leroy Jenkins right in. Yeah, it Kool-Aid Man. Oh yeah. All right, control systems, control hub, expansion hub, driver hub. They have changed the rule to where they're now going to require the changing from the old Android phones by 2026. They were supposed to be, this was supposed to be the first year where everyone's using the driver hub. I cannot insist on this enough. It is worth the $200 investment. I can't insist on it enough. Just to help yourself. We have had so many connection issues. Still, Android phones were not meant with the OTG to run into Logitech controllers. It just wasn't meant to be. And so many teams will just get all kinds of disconnected with the wiring just because something vibrated wrong. Okay? This was built with the USBs built in mind. Coaches, if you get yourself a driver hub, or if you've already got one, get a case. All right? These are foam pad ones where you cut them out. We've got it for our Logitech controllers and our driver hub. We did this because the first year we had a driver hub, someone was using it on the table. And they went, hey, that robot needs to move. The controller went, so did the cord, so did the driver hub, to a 4-foot drop to the floor. 2 of the 3 USBs completely broke off the board. Get yourself a case. It is worth it. Bad wiring. Good wiring. Label things. Don't go, I'll remember. Mm-mm. All right. Manipulators. You got your conveyor belts, your telescoping lifts, your articulating arms, your shooters, and your lift climbers. I'm going to skim some of this. So conveyors, whether it's rollers or belts, it's either using these guys or different belt systems to intake parts. All right. Here is a roller system. This was meant to intake a block here. Okay? And that's fine. This is also a roller intake on this one down here for Giza. And for the ear jack, their rolling intake was a conveyor belt with flaps. Don't rely on gravity. Gravity will betray you. Okay? Reduce random movements. Find a way to intake it. These are not a common shape, especially with the triangular indentations on the rectangular shape. I love it when we get a new one. These are fantastic. We can only hold one at a time, whether it's a sample or a specimen, don't matter. So I really recommend that. Can you do a claw? Yeah. Your claw will allow you precision, and they're usually easier to build. The downside to a claw, it's not that hard for them to break. Yes?
Wait, we are only allowed to hold one of the game pieces, right?
Yes.
Sorry, I just wasn't able to find that.
No, you're fine, you're fine. Also, let me do the rich voice. Read the competition manual. All right.
It's in there.
I don't have a device on me right now.
That was a joke, son. It's open mic night. All right, moving on. That one was for the adults. All right. Extension lifts, there's lots of different ones. There are winch and pulley, rack and pinion, screw mechanism. This is a pulley mechanism. This one's a continuous. And there's also continuous and cascade, skimming through. Scissor lifts. I know we're going high. I don't recommend them. They get really unstable at the top, especially how high we're going this year. I really don't recommend it. Yes, they are the most compact low to the height. Still, that instability is not worth it. All right, arms, you've got a single jointed arm with just a shoulder and a grab. Multiple jointed arms where you have multiple gearboxes meant to just fail on you. Because Murphy's in the house. 4-bar arms, that's this guy over here. This is Giza in person as well as Giza in the picture. 4-bar arm keeps your tool at the exact height. It keeps it in the same orientation. That can be handy, but it is limited in motion. There's also all kinds of different versions of 4-bar arms, such as virtual, double 4-bar. Look them up online. Vex actually has a great library for this stuff. It's meant for their parts, but it's easy to see how it would translate to anything custom. Arms, watch your weight. Keep it simple, stupid. Shooters, I'm going to skip shooters because we cannot, quote, yeet the piece. That's in the competition manual.
It says yeet.
Human players cannot yeet the game pieces. Uh-huh.
I don't know why they would need to.
I had a good laugh at that one.
Did they say yeet in the?
Go find it.
Word for word.
Wait,
Climbers. These are tools exerting enough force to lift the robot off the ground or keep climbing. 3 main concepts: arm, winch and pulley, and screw mechanism. All right, so the one that Mr. Bishop is holding up, this is a screw mechanism. Actually, can I do the arm first?
Oh,
You're ahead by 1 slide, son.
my bad.
So arms is where you basically have a shoulder and it can hang. For those who did it last year, a lot of people went this route. There's nothing wrong with it, but the gearbox can blow out. Please be careful with that. It can be very risque. When we are doing a climb like this year, that can be even harder. Last time we did a real climb where it was more than 1 rung, that was rescue. And people who were doing shoulder arms, their gearboxes blew out all the time. All right, climbers, you've got your winch and pulley, which are spring-loaded, or they can be extended in different ways. Hook is released, goes up, and then you pull it back down with a pulley. Screw mechanism, what Mr. Bishop was holding up, or one of them, turns the gear, turns the screw, and the screw slowly moves the nut that's inside of it. Because it's a screw, it extends an insane amount of torque. It is increasing your torque a lot. And it's wonderful. Love a screw mechanism. They tend to be a little slower, but they are definitely reliable. Very reliable. Linear slides. With the advent of the Viper slide that Go Builder puts out, whether it's a pulley system or their newer belt system, I love the belt system. All right, people have been able to hang, which is, weight is a major factor, but they're pulling it off. So this is actually Studica here.
Yeah.
So that was a full pull-up hang for last year's game. And it's absolutely fantastic. There were other teams who were doing it with the belt system as well. Climbers. There's also double arm climbers. This is an example from FRC, but it still could be done with FTC parts on a smaller scale. This allows for skier holding to climb higher. So with their game this particular year, they did this. This was Rapid React. They didn't go up. They had to go at an angle monkey bar style. There we go. So it's going up with the main hook.
Do your best.
It's going to pull up, and then these spring-loaded extra hooks pop over it and are just holding it there so that the original extender can extend again to the next bar. It's a great concept. It is more complex and will take up precious motors, but it is a really cool idea.
That is really useful for this year.
Automation, both for autonomous and your teleop. Make sure you're using both. Odometry wheels, odometry sensors, distance sensors. Don't be afraid. Talking about the new update stuff. Your Alliance number plates. I wholeheartedly advocate for 3D printing them. All right? It says they cannot be knocked off. They cannot fall off. They cannot be scratched off. All right? So, those that have seen us for the last few years, you know that with all our plasma cutting that we do, we've been plasma cutting our team number into the robot. Why? Because we're showy. Oh, and it saves weight. Yeah, that's totally why we're doing it. Now, we can't use that as our team number anymore. However, we can still keep it. This is our official Alliance and team number marker. And it slides right in. So Mr. Bishop designed and printed these guys. So it attaches to the inside of the wall. That way it cannot be knocked off by any means. It keeps it in there really tight, even if we're going up. Someone had mentioned magnets. I would actually be against a magnetic system to hold them on, because while you're hanging, if you're not balanced just right, you could swing like a piñata, or the guy on the other side can swing enough like a piñata and knock your stuff off. You lose your team marker, you can get a penalty. I also don't recommend trying to make them reversible. Have 2 blues and 2 reds. Reason being, in the rule book, it says that, hey, if I'm Blue Alliance and I slide that in, but you can see some of this, you can get a penalty. All right, 2 blue, 2 red, keep it simple. Slides in, stays in tight. Yes?
Why 2 blue, 2 red?
Because per the rules, you have to have 2 of your numbers and 2 alliance markers. Before this year, we still had to have 2 alliance markers, but it was the blue circle or the red square. Now that we're combining both concept of the team number as well as the alliance marker, we have 2. We only had time yesterday to mount one of these guys to the wall, but we would have one on each side. So yeah, we would have our team number on here 4 times. 2 is just for show. 2 is to make it legal to drive. Okay? Horizontal reach. Let's talk about this for a quick minute. I don't know what the G designation for this new rule is. I'm also just calling it the 2042 rule. All right, that's a new one. You can only do 20 inches in one direction and 42 inches in the horizontal. Your vertical, there is no limit. It's a beautiful thing. Here's the part that people are going to have to keep in mind. When you go to inspection, okay? This bot is 16.8 inches long. I'm just going to round up to 17. So that means I can only have, at maximum, a 25-inch extension. Here's the trick. Say I extend out 25 inches past the front of my fenders. Fine, that's no problem. If I have a shoulder that goes up to directly vertical, it's still fine. If at all it can go backwards, you are now outside of the 42. Even though you can't do both at the same time, it's still counting it as such. And they will be checking to see what is your maximum in every direction, as if your arm could do it a million directions. Okay? If in any way, shape, or form it can be outside of that 42-20, it can mean you're not passing inspection. Okay? Even if you can't do it at the same time. All right? Is everybody with me on this? All right. Yeah, we've all, a lot of us, especially old timers, we've seen some robots that can do some insane expansion. Power play. There was a robot at Worlds. Each arm could do over 4 feet extension, had double turntables, and the chassis could expand. Their max expansion, if they lined it all up, was the field. To run both arms, they shut off their drivetrain to conserve power. I'm watching Worlds while I'm teaching little, Lego robots, and I'm just like, bro. Oh, okay, you didn't skip gym day. All right, cool. It was impressive, to say the least. That's not legal anymore.
Was it this year?
No, this was Power Play, so not last year, but the year before.
Quite a bit ago.
10? All right. Ladies and gentlemen, we made it. Any questions? Yes?
Do we need a timers for this year? Because it said you can flaw into those.
So here's the stuff about the climbers. For the higher points in endgame, you have 3 ranges, or 3 levels, whichever terminology they're using. First one, your bot is on the floor and it is touching the lower bar, which is, I believe, 20 inches off the floor. So you're just touching it. You're not doing an actual hang. Number 2, for the 15 points, you're actually hanging from the lower bar and reaching up towards the higher. You cannot skip the lower bar. You have to hang or pull up from it to get to the higher one to get those points. Keep that in mind. The next bar is 16 inches above that, and to be in the 3rd range, not only do you need to be hanging off the top bar, the bottom of your robot needs to clear the lower rung.
In any way touching that lower rung, you are still considered as being
So that would be a lower hang, not a higher hang. Yes?
It actually goes to 15 points instead of 10. That's what I got told by the rule book.
For which?
10 if it's lower rung, 15 if it's both, 30 if it's tall.
Yes. Questions? Yes. So I will be giving this to Christine. I wanted to update it when, because I had question marks in the parts that talk about the rectangle and whatnot. So I wanted to make sure it got updated. I will be updating it probably this weekend. I'll get it to her and she'll probably get it out to the blog. Any other questions? Yes.
So if your line marker can't be showing any red if you're blue light,
Yes.
then you can't does that mean your robot can't be fully red or fully blue?
That's something we've also been considering as well. You got to watch your colors, and I would check with the refs right now. So for instance, the Dragons colors are red and black. It just so happens we lucked out that this year we were planning with our color scheme to go black already. So we're like, okay, cool. Normally we would back this up like we did with Kai. So that year we were a black painted robot and we did red numbers. We ain't doing that this year. So that's why you'll see over on the Protobot, it's got white numbering. For the Wyverns, theirs are blue and gray. They're going to go for a gray bot this year. So that way we can avoid it. Now, like I said, these bots are not going to see competition. So that's why this one's red and it's black and all kinds of fancy looking. Other questions? Yes?
Are you allowed to have a type of any off light?
Are you talking for this guy?
Yeah.
No, it has to be the red or the blue. All right, if you're talking like some kind of teal, no, they're probably not going to get that through inspection. If you want to go magenta or some kind of red mixed with hot pink, probably not. I'd keep it simple, stick with a basic red and blue.
In competition manual, it does say that they specifically want no other shades of red or blue, just specifically what is offered.
Thank you, Mr. Bishop.
So, my 30% is high, but if I have a single filament roll printer and I'm trying to make it 2 colors, if I stop it mid-print after it's covered up the top of the numbers and change it to the red and blue, would that still make it the blue orange?
That should be fine. So yeah, these were printed on this bamboo and we can switch between filament.
Yeah, it's pretty nice.
Yeah.
I have a suggestion to fix that. So simplest way, say print out the case out of whatever color, like red or blue, then just print the numbers separately in white, and then you can just stick those in with super glue, call it good.
Yeah.
Now it does say it can't scratch off. If you did print just all this indentation and then paint it in the white, and because you put it behind your polycarb, it should be fine because you're not scratching off through polycarb.
Yeah.
Oh, real quickly, probably should have put that in there. Occasionally, and I'm trying to get the information out there, some people want to do the walls out of acrylic. Don't. It snaps like a twig, even while you're working it, let alone if a robot, I don't know, randomly has a bad auto that goes spinning off into the distance and slams into you at a low-speed car crash. Yeah, stick with polycarb. It holds up, its robustness, it's worth the money to get the polycarb. Any other questions or comments? Yes?
Is polycarb and plexiglass the same or different?
They are different.
So which one would you recommend?
Polycarbonate. Usually we go to Home Depot. There are a couple plastic places that will actually donate a sheet if you can get them to donate. I think a 4-foot by 8-foot sheet at Home Depot is like $200. But here's the thing. That sheet doesn't last you for 1 year. It's usually lasting you 3, 4, 5, 6, depending on how often you do it, especially with off-season projects. Yes?
I wonder if you could do like an FRC belly pan. How would that
FRC what, I'm sorry?
a belly pan? Could you do that here in FTC? Would that work?
Belly pan?
Yeah, like underneath the robots.
We've done that before. Actually, is his on? Okay, he had one. Apparently it's gone missing into the ether. I've got no problem with that. Because of the VEX on this particular one, the way it's built right now, it would be a little more difficult. We'd have to do some offsets. You can do it. It's no problem.
Only thing with that is just keep track of what's on the field, because if it's just low enough, you might get stuck on something.
Yeah. Yes?
Are you allowed to detach weight?
Are you allowed to detach weight?
Yeah. like if you have a white robot and you rig it so that it has no traction, are you allowed to detach it?
Nope. Negatory Ghost Rider, the pattern is full.
In the past, they've said you cannot have a single part.
That is deliberately detach. Now, that being said, if say, oh, I don't know, a collar falls off, a bolt falls out of your robot while stuff's going on. It was an oopsie, your robot pooped on the floor, just pick it up after the match, don't make a habit of it. But purposeful detachment, yeah, that's a penalty. Also, don't set your robot on fire.
Oops. For 4 years in a row.
Any other quick questions, or you want me to talk about that story about Matt?